Gotta bring some friends to the party today. It's New Year's. Happy New Year's, everybody! Woo woo! Alright, everybody, it's your boy, it's Joe. How are we doing out there? Let me lower this a little bit. Too much lower. Happy New Year's, everybody. It's Joe. Thank you for joining the stream earlier. If you did, if you didn't catch it, I was just cooking. I was a little late on my, whoa, fix my hat, get my face into the frame. There we go. It's the captain of the Love Boat here. I got my little buddies dancing along with us today. Let me make them a little, I think Bugs should be a little bit bigger, don't you? Shouldn't you be, Bugs? How about my boy Sid? Mr. Sid. My boy Sid. Let me make Sid a little bit bigger too. Come on, Sid. You need to grow up, buddy. There you go, Sid. They're dancing. They're having a good time. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom. I love it. Gotta have fun, guys. It's New Year's, huh? Gotta have fun. They're having a good time. All right, guys. Real talk, real quick. If you guys are gonna be doing any drinking tonight, again, be responsible. All right. You know, have a friend drive you home. Have a designated driver. Have a designated Uber waiting for you. Call an Uber. Stay home. Then be safe, guys. Don't be out there drinking and driving. And you kill people when you drink and drive, man. You don't want one night to ruin the whole rest of your life and somebody else's life and 10,000 other people's lives. All right. What you do affects others. So be responsible tonight. Have fun though. But yeah. So again, I got so many distractions going on today. Let me kind of close these down a little bit. No, guys, thank you. Bye bye, buddies, and bye bye, face. All right. So, yeah. So again, was late. So we're gonna dive right into our studies real quick. We're gonna try to get through chapter 16 here. Close this down actually. Let me just pull it up real quick. I'll dive into it, guys. We only got a little bit of time. I gotta work tonight. Wish I could join you guys for some New Year's celebrations. That would have been fun, but what are you gonna do? Some of us have to still work. No big deal, Not sad about it. It is what it is. Gotta make that money. There, guys. Either way, like I said, I hope you guys stay safe tonight. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's taking this thing so long to load it up. 'Cause, 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 Come on, computer, work with me. Work with me. I'm on a time frame, yeah? Oh my goodness. Everything's taking forever. Of course, now this doesn't want to load, so that's just a way. Come on. I ain't got time for this. You guys ain't got time for this. Ain't nobody got time for this. Ain't nobody got time for this. All right, there we go. We're up. We are up and running, man. We're up and running. Okay, we're up and running. Switch over. Switch me over. Put this over to here. Boop. Yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop. Oh damn me, I'm starting to yawn already. Alright. So we already read some of that already. And let's get right into it. Okay. So IP routing, guys, that's the main focus of this chapter. That's where we're going to be focusing on, and that's where we're at. So, all right. So, we kind of read some of that. Let's go. Let's just dive right into the IPv4 routing process reference. Because you already know and saw some of the basics back in chapter 3. This section collects the routing process into steps for reference. This steps use many specific Ethernet LAN terms discussed in part 2 and 3 of this book, and some IP addressing terms discussed in part 4. The upcoming description and examples then discuss the summaries of routing logic, okay? To make sure that each step is clear. The routing process starts with the host that creates the IP packet. First, the host asks the question, is the destination IP of this new packet in my local subnet, okay? The host uses its own IP address / mask to determine the range of addresses in its local subnet, okay? Based on its own opinion of range of addresses in its local subnet, a local area network-based host acts as follows. So step 1, if it determines if the destination is local, send directly. Find the destination host MAC address. Use the already known address resolution protocol ARP table, okay, ARP table, or use ARP message to learn information. So what's that saying is it will look at its table. So look at its ARP table to see if it already knows the MAC address. If it doesn't know the MAC address, then it's going to send that ARP message out to find out that information about the MAC address, the layer 2. It wants to know the layer 2 information, okay? All right, encapsulate the IP packet in the data link frame with the destination data link address of the destination host, okay? If the destination is not local, send to the default gateway. Okay, so that's why we have the default gateways, because if it's out of our network, we have to have a, if we don't have a default route or a default gateway set up, then that router is just going to drop that packet because it's not going to know what to do with it. It's going to say it's not in my network. There's nothing I can do with it, so I drop it. If we have a default gateway and we have it as we set it to a default route, it's going to say, okay, I don't know where this is, but let me send it to my default gateway, and maybe my default gateway might know where to send this next. You know what I'm saying? So step 2, Find the default gateway's MAC address. Use the already known address resolution protocol, the ARP table, or use a ARP message to learn the information. So again, if it's going to go back to its ARP table and say, okay, what's the layer 2, what's the MAC address of my default gateway? I need to know the MAC address of my default gateway so I can send it. Let me look at my ARP table. I don't know the MAC address of my default gateway yet. All right, so let me send out an ARP message, and let me find. So I have the IP address, and that's where you'll see those messages. Who is at 10.1.1.1.4? Tell 10.1.1.3. Okay, so that's when you'll see those messages, because what it is 10.1.1.3 is looking for layer 2 information of that particular layer 3 address. So it has a layer 3 address. It's going to say, where is this information? Who I have this layer 3 address. I need to know what the layer 2 information is on that layer 3 address. So can somebody tell me what the layer 2 information is? Okay, then the reply comes back. Okay, this is my MAC address, okay, or whatever else. Encapsulate the IP packet in the data link frame with the destination data link address of the default gateway. Here's the figure. It summarizes these same concepts. And the figure, host A sends a local packet directly to host D. However, host D. However, for packets to host B on the other side of the router, and are on the other side of the router, therefore in a different subnet. Host A sends the packet to its default gateway, router R1. As a reminder, the term default gateway and default route are the same. Default gateway, default route. Okay, they're just calling it a default gateway just to say it's going to a particular router instead of default route. When you think default route, that's like thinking path. This is going to a particular device. Okay, but they're the same thing. All right. So, as you can see from the, where's my Epic pen? All right. So, as you can see from the picture here, when host A sends the packet to D, it's on the same local network. So probably the /24. Let me erase that. That's awful, Joe. You are not allowed to do that anymore. So say their host A is 10.0.0.2/24, and then host D is 10.0.0.3/24. Okay. What that is saying is host A and host D here. All right, they're on the same network. Okay, same network. Okay. But host B over here, say he's at the address 192.168.1.1/24. Okay, so again, going back to subnetting, host B is in a totally different network, totally different area than host A and host B. But host B might be, host B looks like a server that could be potentially hosting some website that host A or host D might need to get to. You know what I'm saying? This might be, who knows? That might be Google. You know what I'm saying? That server might be a Google server that host A or host B have to, that want to get information from. Oh boy, it's going to be push-up time in a minute. You can feel it. I can feel it. Well, let me shout out to Sergeant Mr. Casper again. If you're watching me on the Facebook, Mr. Sergeant Casper, I got something special for you. Just because I love my Sergeant Casper so much. And I love that man. Here we go, Sergeant Casper. These are for you. Only for you, Sergeant Casper. You pump me up. Hoop, hoop, hoop. Do some Sergeant Casper push-ups. Ready? Hoop. Here we go, Sergeant Casper. Ooh. 1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Ooh, Sergeant Casper. Here's one more for you, Sergeant Casper. Ooh, yeah.
I don't know if he caught it yesterday. I was shouting out to him yesterday. Maybe he caught it. Maybe I'll catch that one too.
Sergeant Casper. Here's one more for you, Sergeant Casper.
I love it. I love it.
Gotta get my pythons. Gotta get my pythons back, Sergeant Casper. That can.
I'm having too much fun. Having too much fun already, guys. All right. We gotta get through this chapter. All right. You guys got the idea, right? Let's continue on. All right. Router has routers have a little bit more routing work to do compared with host. While the host logic begins with the IP packet sitting in memory, a router has some work to do before getting to that point. With the following 5 steps, summary of the routing logic, the router takes the first 2 steps, all right, just to receive the frame and extract the IP packet before thinking about the packet destination address. Step 3. All right, step 3. The following the steps are as follows. Okay, so this is the step 3 here. For each received data link frame, choose whether or not to process the frame. Process it if okay, the frame has no errors per the data link trailer, the FCS, the frame check sequence field, okay, per the data link frame check sequence field, okay. The frame has no errors, so it's checking for errors, okay. The frame destination data link address is the router address, so the frame destination data link address is the router's address, or appropriate multicast or broadcast address, okay? If choosing to process the frame at step 1, de-encapsulate the packet from inside the data link frame, okay? Make a routing decision. All right, so this is where, right here, look at this, right here. So we're gonna take a look at this. If choosing to process the frame at step 1, de-encapsulate, there we go, is that de-encapsulate the frame inside the data link frame. So you remember when a packet goes through a router, all right, it's de-encapsulating it. Remember when we talked about this? And I was kind of confused on which MAC address it was picking up. So at step 1, it de-encapsulates the frame, and then the packet from the inside of the data link frame. The data link frame. So that's that layer 2. And that's what it's de-encapsulating. It's going to open that up, okay, de-encapsulate that, all right, at that data link frame, right? It's not changing the network part of it. It's changing, so it's not going to touch that with like the destination IP address. It's going to take that data link portion, okay? That's where it picks up that's where it adds its MAC address back to it, and hopefully it gets into that, okay? Because remember, as being de-encapsulated and re-encapsulated, all right, the only thing that's really the information that's changing on that is the source MAC addresses, okay? Let's continue. All right. Make a routing decision to do so. Compare the packet destination IP address to the routing table and find the route that matches the destination address. This route identifies the outgoing interface of the router and possibly the next hop router. Okay. Encapsulate the packet in the data link frame. There we go. Encapsulate the packet in the data link frame appropriate for the outgoing interface. Ooh, appropriate for the outgoing interface. When forwarding out a LAN interface, use the ARP as needed to find the next device MAC address. Okay, so that's a big one. Encapsulate the packet into the data link frame appropriate of the outgoing interface. But if you remember on that one, it was the source, not the. It was where that frame came into, not so much the. When forwarding out the LAN interface, use ARP as needed to find the next device MAC address. So it's stating that, again, if it doesn't know the next destination, next hop per se, it's going to use ARP again to try to find that device's MAC addresses. All right, transmit the frame out the outgoing interface. Okay. As listed in the matched IP route. Okay. This routing process summary lists all details, but sometimes you can think about routing process in a simpler term. For example, leave out some details. This paraphrases of these steps, list details, and some of the concept. The router receives a frame, removes the packet from inside the frame. Oh, right. So frame. There's a word. Receives a frame. All right. Removes the packet from inside the frame. Okay, frame. Remember, layer 2. Decides where to forward the packet. All right. Puts the packet into another frame. Okay, do you understand where this is going? Okay. And then sends the frame. All right. That's maybe we'll transition over to the whiteboard real quick so we can kind of illustrate this a little bit better. Still gotta fix this What the hell was that? Hey, what are you doing, buddy? Scared me. Little psychos. All right. Clean up the whiteboard a little bit. All right. That's good. Probably this. All right. That's good. What?
Piece of candy.
Huh?
Yeah, piece of candy.
A piece of candy? I've had all this food, dude. I don't want your belly to get hurt. Maybe tomorrow, okay?
Hurts.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
It doesn't.
You're gonna cry later, dude. I'm telling you. You always do. All right. All right. So what were we just talking about? So we were talking about this right here. So, all right. So the router receives the frame. So the router receives the frame. All right. So the frame's going to come in to the router. Okay. All right. The router removes the packet. So here's the packet. So let's just draw our frame. All right. Here's our frame. All right. Packet's in the frame. All right. Removes the packet. All right. From inside the frame. So the router removes the packet from inside the frame. Okay. Then decides where to forward the packet. So then it looks through its ARP table. All right. Looks through its ARP table. All right. Decides where to put and then puts the packet into a new frame. Here's its new frame. All right. Puts the packet inside of a new frame. All right. And then sends that frame out that interface. All right. The interface. So it received it from this interface. It looked in its ARP table. All right. And then looked at its, it looked at its ARP table to see, it looked at its routes. It looked at its routing table to see what's the best possible way to send it. Is it my default gateway? All right. Is it a host? All right. So if it's outside my network, where's my default gateway? All right. Do I know the IP address to my default gateway? All right. Do I know the layer 2 information of my default gateway? If I don't, I'm going to be looking at my ARP table. So looking at my routing table, I'm seeing where is this going to? Is it going to a host? So inside. All right. So if it's going to the inside of my network, I'm looking, all right, where's the host? Okay. Do I know the host layer 2 information? If I don't, I'm going to be looking at my ARP table for that information. If I don't, I'm going to be sending out that ARP message, okay, to find that layer 2 info. Okay. And then again, if it's outside, again, if I figure out that that frame needs to go to the outside of my local network, where's my default gateway? Do I know the default? Do I know my MAC address for my default gateway? I'm looking at my ARP table, and again, if I don't know it, I'm sending out that MAC, that ARP request again to find that layer 2 info of my default gateway now, and then forwarding that frame again either to the outside, to my default, or to a host or another possible router or a possible device. So, okay, so we're starting to understand routing, the actual routing logic. All right. All right. To give you a little bit more perspective of these steps, the figure breaks down the same 5-step routing process as a diagram. The figure shows the packet arriving from the left, entering the router Ethernet interface with the IP destination of host C. The figure shows the packet arriving, encapsulating inside of a Ethernet frame. So there we go. So yeah, so pretty much exactly what we just drew up on the board here. All right, where it's gonna get that Ethernet frame. All right, man, I'm so horrible with this. All right, it's gonna remove that packet. All right, it's gonna look in its routing table. Okay, again, it's gonna look in that routing table. All right, it's gonna decide where it should be sending where that packet. It's gonna decide where that packet needs to go. It's gonna figure out the best route for that packet needs to go. Then once it figures it out, it says, okay, is it going to a host or is it going to my default gateway? Do I have the layer 2 information for those devices? So then again, it's gonna look at its ARP table. All right. And then if it doesn't, it's going to be sending out those ARP messages to find that layer 2 information. Okay. And here it shows encapsulating it back, re-encapsulating back into a HDLC type frame. All right. R1 processes the frame in packet as shown with the numbers and the figures matching the same 5-step process description just before the figure as. Router 1 notes that receives the Ethernet frame passes the FCS, so the frame check sequence, all right, check, and that the destination Ethernet MAC address in R1's MAC address, so it processes the frame. R1 de-encapsulates the IP packet from inside the Ethernet frame header and trailer, so it removes, so here's the Ethernet, all right, header and trailer, so here's the trailer, header, so it removes that packet from that header and trailer, boop, all right, removes that packet, all right, de-encapsulates that packet, all right, that frame, de-encapsulates that frame to remove that packet, all right. R1 compares the IP packet destination IP address to its so it talks first to its routing table, okay, to its IP routing table, okay, all right. R1 encapsulates the IP, now re-encapsulates the IP packet in a new frame, okay, header trailer, all right, new data link frame, and in this case, inside of a high level data link control, all right, header LAN. So in this, for instance, it's putting inside of a HDLC header and trailer, a high level data link control frame. All right. R1 transmits the IP packet inside the new HDLC frame out its serial port. Okay, so serial port, there's a terminology, and that's why I put it inside of a high-level data link control frame. So high-level data link control frame, because it's sending it out of a serial link, all right, a serial port, all right. So it's going outside to the internet. So it's leaving the whole entire network and going outside to the internet, okay, all right, out to its serial link, all right. So this where this frame is going, this IP packet's destination is outside. It has to be transmitted outside to the internet to get to its destination. So that router is gonna it removes that first Ethernet frame, so that Ethernet frame from our Ethernet LAN, all right, from our Ethernet LAN group, all right, removes that IP packet from that Ethernet frame, okay. Now, because that where that IP packet's destination to, it now has to re-encapsulate that packet now into a HDLC frame, because it's sending it out a serial link, it's sending it out a serial port out to the WAN, to the wide area network, to the internet, all right, to get to whatever destination host that IP packet is destined for, okay? All right. How's everything looking? Everything's good. Oh, my beard. My beard's all like fuzzies. I think I got the green screen too much down that one. I'll fix that later. Not tonight. I'll fix it later. All right. Yep. Note this chapter uses several figures that show a IP packet encapsulation inside the data link layer frame. These figures often show both the data link header as well as the data link trailer. with the IP packet in the middle. The IP packet all included the IP header plus any encapsulated data. An example of IP routing. The next several pages walk through an example that discusses each routing step in order through multiple devices. The example uses a case in which host A 172.16.1.9 sends a packet to host B 172.16.2.9. All right, with the host routing logic in the 5 steps showing how R1 forwards the packet. The figure shows a typical IP addressing diagram for an IPv4 network with typical address abbreviations. The diagram can get a little bit messy if it lists the full IP addresses for every router's interface. When possible, this diagram usually lists the subnets and then lists the octets of the first 2 individual IP addresses. Just enough so that you know the IP address, but less to clutter. For example, host A uses the IP address 172.1.9, taking from the subnet 172.16.1/24, in which all addresses begin 172.16.1 and the .9 besides the host icon. As in another example, R1 uses the address 172.16.1.1 on its LAN interface and 172.4.1 on the 1 serial interface and 172.5.1 on its Ethernet WAN interface. Okay, so it's just going over that. All right. Now to the example with the host A. 172.16.1.9 sending the packet to host B at 172.16.1.2.9. So it's a totally different subnet. Okay. All right. Let's continue on. In this example, host A uses some application that sends the data to host B after host A sends the IP packet sitting in the memory. Host A's logic reduces the following. My IP address /mask is 172.16.1.9. So my local subnet contains 172.16.1.0 to 172.16.1.225, including the subnet ID and the subnet broadcast address. The destination address is 172.16.2.9, which is clearly not in my local subnet. So it's a totally different subnet. Okay. Send the packet to my default gateway which is 172.16.1.1. To send the packet, encapsulate the Ethernet frame. Make the destination MAC address be R1's gigabit 0 dash. So 0 dash. So remember, so it's going to be making 0-0 the destination MAC address. Okay. All right. Make the destination MAC address be R1's gigabit 0 dash and at host A's default gateway. Okay. The figure pulls these concepts together, showing the destination IP address and the destination MAC address in the frame in the packet sent by host A. In this case, note that the figure uses a common drawing convention in networking, showing the Ethernet frame as a few lines, hiding all the details of the layer 2 switches. Okay. I'm just looking at the information here. All right, so it's just showing. It's showing what it's showing here. We'll go over this. So it's here's so all right. So it's saying I need to get to 172. I'm sending a packet to 172.16.2.9. Okay, but I need to send it to my default gateway. So the default gateway's MAC address is, so the destination MAC address is now the default gateways, which is 2 dot, all the way to yeah. So there's that. So here's the correlating MAC address. Okay, so 2, the MAC address of R1. Okay, but this right here is going to be going to this is going to B. All right, that's going to B, and B is at 172.16.2.9. All right, so that's so the Ethernet frame is holding the information for the MAC address of the default gateway. Okay, so host A is looking at its ARP table. So host A has its own ARP table. Okay, so it's looking at that information and saying, okay, I need to know the layer 2 information for my default gateway. So I'm looking at my ARP table. If I don't have the information in my ARP table, now remember, it's going to be sending out those ARP messages to get this layer 2 information. But we're already suggesting that that it already has the layer 2 information of its default route, its default gateway. Okay. All right. So, all right. Routing step 1, decide whether to process the incoming frame. Routers receive many frames on its interface, particularly local area network interfaces. However, a router can and should ignore some of those frames. So the first step in the routing process begins with a decision of whether a router should process the frame or slightly disregard or ignore the frame. All right. So you see how it's using the terminology frame. Okay, we have to keep that in mind, frame instead of packet. All right, because it's de-encapsulating and re-encapsulating IP packets inside of new frames. So it's taking old frames. All right, it's de-encapsulating the frames as it comes in, and then deciding what to do with those packets that are inside those frames, either dropping them or disregarding them. You know what I'm saying? If it's gonna process them, then it's gonna be re-encapsulating it into a new Ethernet or a new HDLC frame, and then sending that out. Whatever interface is the appropriate routing path for that frame to go out of its next interface. Okay. First, the router does a simple but important check. Step 1A in the process. So that router ignores all frames that have bit errors during the transmission. Routers use the data link trailer FCS frame check sequence. Remember, frame check sequence field to check the frames. If errors occur in the transmission, the routers disregard the frame. The routers make no attempts at error recovery. So there we go. So our routers make no attempts to make any error recovery. That is, the router does not ask the sender to retransmit the data. So routers if there's errors, so if they discover an error in the frame check sequence, then they don't send out a message to the source. All right, they don't send a message back to the source stating to retransmit the frame. It just totally ignores it or drops that frame. Okay. The routers also check the destination data link address. Step B, to decide whether the frame, again, we're using the term frame, is intended for the router. For example, frames sent to the router's unicast MAC address for that interface are clearly sent to that router. So frame, unicast, Okay, frame unicast. So there's some stuff. So if that frame comes in with that router's MAC address, that unicast, that unique address, that unique MAC address that router has on its network interface card, okay? All right, if that frame comes in with that unicast address of that router's interface, then that router knows that it should be processing that frame and de-encapsulating it, and then taking a look at that packet that's inside of that frame. Okay, this is helping me really understand. This is a good chapter. For example, the frames sent to the router's unicast MAC address for the interface are clearly sent to that router. However, a router can actually receive a frame sent to some other unicast MAC address, and the router should. A router can actually receive a frame sent to some other unicast MAC addresses, and routers should ignore these frames. Okay. For example, when routers receive some unicast frames sent to other devices in the VLAN, such because of the local area switch works. Man, I swear, this, like, the way it's written sometimes, I don't know if I just can't read or if it's just the way this is written sometimes. It's not smooth. Oh, man, it's time for me to get ready for work soon. Damn. All right, for example, routers will receive some unicast frames sent to other devices in the VLAN just because of how LAN switches work. Think back to how LAN switches forward unknown unicast frames. So remember, switches flood those unknown unicast frames out. They just flood it. They don't care who's gonna get it. They just said, okay, I got this unknown. Well, I'm gonna flood it out to everybody to see who's gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? To see who it belongs to. All right. Frames which the switch does not list the destination MAC address in the MAC address table. The LAN switch floods those frames. The result: routers sometimes receive frames destined for some other device with some other device MAC address listed as the destination MAC. Routers should ignore those frames. In this example, host A sends a frame destined for R1's MAC address. So after the frame is received and R1 confirms that the FCS field, the frame check sequence, has no errors occurred, R1 confirms that the frame is destined for R1's MAC address 0.2.0.1, yada yada yada. In this case, all checks have been passed, so the router 1 will process the frame as shown. Note that the large rectangle in the figure represents the internal of the actual router. All right, so it's getting again, it's getting the frame, okay, from gigabit 0-1. It has the correct MAC address for router R1. All right. Takes a look at that Ethernet frame. All right. And then remember, it de-encapsulates the trailer and header at this point because it's passed all of its checks. Okay. It's this router. This frame was destined for this router. Okay. So the router says, okay, this was supposed to be mine. So now that it's supposed to be mine, now it's my job to do. Now it's time for me to do my job. So I'm going to take a look at my routing table. Well, first I'm going to de-encapsulate this. I'm going to pull out this IP packet. I'm going to take a look at the IP packet. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to compare that to my routing table. I'm going to say, okay, where should this IP packet go? Okay, well, I have a route to some destination out in the big internet. Okay, well, anything that has to go to the big internet should be going out my serial port. Okay, all right. So let me now re-encapsulate this IP packet into a HDLC frame and then send that out my serial port to the big internet. All right. Man, this stinks. I gotta get wrapped up because, again, I gotta get ready for work, guys. I should have tomorrow off, though. We'll finish this up. Sorry again. Alright. Sorry again about not being able to really dig too deep into chapter 16 tonight, guys. Again, I was tore up and I overslept today. Well, I guess I didn't overslept. I got about 7 hours. Sorry. I know I shouldn't be saying sorry, but I'm committed to this, guys. You guys know that already. So we'll be picking back up again tomorrow. You know, maybe a little bit earlier. We'll see. Again, I get the night off, so or maybe we'll just go long into the night, depending. So, oh boy, I'm already tired already. This ain't good. It's not the way I like to start my night. But thank you guys again for joining me, and hope you guys got a kick out of me cooking. I don't know if anybody joined, but if you did, I hope you got a kick out of it. And yeah, no, guys. Again, thank you very much, everybody out there, for continuing to support this stream. And the stream's just gonna continue to, well, we're just gonna continue to keep on adding on things to this stream. Keep on keeping on. Hopefully here soon I can get this 3D printer to work too. I haven't, ever since I put it together, I haven't spent too much time touching it after the fact, but we will. All right, guys. Mwah! You guys have a good night and Happy New Year. All right. Remember again, real talk. Don't be drinking and driving. All right. That's how people. That's how you get. That's how you hurt people, guys. So, yeah, guys. You guys have a safe night. Be good. Happy New Year's. Let's get some dancing. Let's get some dancing animals again. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Get it, Bugs. Get it, Bug. Get it, Sid. All right, everybody. Happy New Year. I'll see you.